but I can say there's a huge difference between working for some company and doing your own business. Now that when you work for a big company, even if it is a startup, already scale up, you feel the background of this company. You feel the people who are supporting you. There's a big team. Maybe I was joining this Dodo brands. It was maybe about, I don't know, 70 people. So it was pretty big actually. And there is money in the company, there is people, experience, and the name of the brand. And when you, for example, making some cold outreaches, people want to speak with you, yeah? And when you're doing a no-name startup in a new country, nobody wants to speak with you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Startup Thunder podcast by Inside the Product. I am your host, Juan, and today we have as a guest Denis, who is one of the co-founders of GetPlace.io, which is a tool to help you find the best location for your next brick and mortar shop. Hopefully, I have gotten that one correct. Denis, you can correct me. But hey, please introduce yourself.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
welcome.
It was really a nice speech of our company. So thanks one more time for inviting me in this podcast. So happy to share and happy to meet with you. So hope I will have a nice conversation and for somebody it will be useful. Yeah, so from a little bit intro for myself. So I think that last 10 years, I mainly worked in a consumer-oriented businesses. So it was like a big FMCG company, the Mars Pet Care, where I was the lead of e-commerce for Russia and CIS region. And for last 6 years after that, before I started the GetPlace, I was in a top management team of one of the fastest growing food tech businesses in Eastern Europe. The name of the brand is Dodo brand. So when I joined the company, it was, I think, just in the start of its journey. So it was about maybe 90 stores across Russia. But then during these 6 years, we opened more than 800 stores. So currently,
Wow.
yeah, so it was like a huge growth. So within six years, we opened more than 800 stores in I think in 16 countries. So currently, when I was leaving the brand in 2022, the revenue was super close to $1 billion US dollars worldwide. It was like 16 or 17 countries, 900 plus stores. Yeah, and in this company, I was mainly responsible for two different things. Some part of the journey, I was responsible, I can say, for the business development. So one of my assignments were I was the CEO of our Chinese business. So I was opening our office there and developing our business for some time. But lately, I was closing the office, so it was like a nice startup journey within the company. Also, for a long period of time, I was responsible for the whole consumer experience in the offline. So what is connected with the taste of food, service, store design, something like that. And just like when I was doing that, I was also interested and for somehow I can say responsible for the technology of choosing the right location. So I noticed that many of our offline stores, they're not performing super good. So the deliveries works well and the stores are profitable, but the revenue of the offline of the dining is not super high. I when I starting to exploring why it is happening like this and gaining the experience of big companies such as McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, many others, and I found out that we are doing a lot of different mistakes in choosing the location. Yeah, so that's how I was connected with this idea, what I'm doing now. And for some time, I understand that it could be like a separate business, and that's why I'm here.
That's great. It sounds like you have a really wide experience of having done like go to market, business development, uh, things that usually maybe people don't necessarily know too well when they start startups. That usually they come maybe more from the product development side. More likely, at least I think in the most cases, I think that people come more from that end instead of from the business side. So I think that that's a very strong background for you to know how to grow a company.
You know how to say when I'm like sharing something like this, it could sound from the side. So his guy's super experienced, he knows these things right well. But I can say there's a huge difference between working for some company and doing your own business. So I can tell the truth that when I was starting the Get Place, I thought it would be much easier. I don't think that it would. I didn't think that it would be super easy. Yeah, I understand. I read a lot of things about startups, and I thought, okay, it would be difficult, but I can resist. Yeah, this, and I can overcome all these problems and be strong. But I understand that now that when you work for a big company, even if it is a startup already scale up, you feel the background of this company. You feel the people who are supporting you. There is a big team. Maybe I was joining this Dodo brands. It was maybe about, I don't know, 70 people. So was pretty big actually. Uh, and there is money in the company. There is people, experience, and the name of the brand. And when you, for example, making some cold outreaches, people want to speak with you. Yeah. And when you're doing a no-name startup in a new country, nobody wants to speak with you. Even so, yeah.
So that's really cool. What you just said is what that all the experience, and I agree that even if you have a lot of experience, just jumping into startup is a completely different world. But before we take a dive in that area, I think it would be great if you do us like a pitch of what GetPlace is. Maybe a quick question: do you call it GetPlace or do you call it GetPlace.io?
Uh, Actually, I try to call it always a getplace.io, and there is a reason that there is a couple of other companies with the name of Getplace. Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, so when I think that when I pronounce it, I usually say just the Getplace, but when I write something, I always write the getplace.io.
Yeah. So people don't get confused and make sure that it's the
Yeah,
correct one.
yeah.
So then do us the pitch a little bit of in a couple of minutes of what GetPlace.io is, what is the benefit, who are the customers.
Yeah, okay. So the getplacer.io, as you mentioned, it is the tool that helps offline, so brick and mortar businesses, especially SMEs, to help them find the best location for their new stores. So it seems like to be not a big issue, yes, of how to open like the store and how to choose location, but the history of offline retail and all the experience of the big companies tell us that really the location is the main thing. So when we're talking about the offline business, there is some kind of, I say, like words, the thing like spread in the mouth, and there is like a big rule that sounds like that. There is a three important things like in retail. The first one is location, the second one is location, and the third one is also the location. So this is actually true. So you can change a lot of different things. You can change the prices, you can change the menu, you can change the number of items you are selling, but you cannot change the location. You already rented, you already built a place there, and if you make the strategic mistake, there is no chance to change it like with the tactic things. So this is what we want to solve. We want to help SMEs to go through these problems. We know that there is a couple of really bunch of solutions for the enterprise clients. So such big companies like McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, as I mentioned, they have a solutions for that, and they use different kind of services. They have their own teams to solve it. But when you are individual entrepreneur, when you are a small chain, you don't have a lot of access to the big data that helps you to make the decisions. So what is actually GetPlace doing? We are collecting a lot of different data sources. We buy a lot of data that is not affordable for the SMEs. We work with this data, we'll make some conclusions, and we'll help them to make the decisions. So everything is super simple.
That sounds really interesting. As you say, I think that is very important that the price of that data and even understanding that data requires a depth of knowledge that, yeah, McDonald's and the big retails or the big chains can afford it. But yeah, if you're a small one, you probably not cannot afford the price or cannot afford even the knowledge of how to develop that.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of work.
this,
So maybe a little bit on the what made you do that change from being an executive. I'm not sure if you were in C level, but I'm guessing in the previous company to decide to transition now to do your startup, which is obviously quite risky and of course probably quite interesting. But maybe walk us a little bit. How was that journey?
you know, I have like one thing. I always answer all the questions like directly and honestly what I think. So I think it's like cut a lot of like corners and helps like to get the results faster and makes your life easier. So I will answer like everything like it is. So I was all my life dreaming to make something my own, some business, yeah. But actually, I was always afraid of this. So for some different reasons, on every step of my life, when I started to think about making my own startup, I was thinking something like, I will do it a little bit later when I have more money, maybe more shares of this startup, maybe more sustainable, maybe I don't know when my kids will grow up. So something like that. And maybe I think that if not the 2022, maybe I will never try to be an entrepreneur and will always be like a C-level manager or maybe like a CEO of some companies. Actually, my last role was a CEO of one of the internal startups of this big brand, the coffee chain. Yeah, but in 2022, there starts like a war of Russia with Ukraine, and I feel myself mm, really difficult about the situation. I feel myself very sad, and I was exhausted, like emotionally, and I understand that in our country it was super difficult to maybe say some things, how you think about them, how you feel about them, and it become really dangerous. Uh, yeah, and we decided that maybe we have to change something. We have to go and try maybe some to try our life in some other countries where is maybe more freedom and more chances to like speak honestly what you think. Yeah, and that's how. Yeah, I was something like I decided to quit the company, yeah, and to leave all this career, and went out of my native country. And then I started to think what I can do next, and maybe I can try some other C-level roles in some European companies, some big companies worldwide. But I understand that I don't feel myself motivated for that. So I feel that currently it's not really too much interesting for me, and I want to come to some next step, try something new, some new feelings, some new experience, to learn something new. Yeah, and that's how I decided to start the Get Place.
Nice. Thanks for the honesty. Definitely, really appreciate it. And I can imagine that it's always a tough decision to make. And as you say, it's difficult always to when you are in that kind of director role to think what could be the next step. Yeah, as appealing as the startup is also the dangerous or the risky side of the risky bet of where is it going to go. But if we dive in a little bit on Get Place, because I think it's really fascinating what you're doing there. I find it very interesting. Is that so? If we dig in a little bit, is that who who is this for? Because you are talking about locations, and the examples that you are giving are mainly restaurants. But what would be the types of locations or businesses that you are thinking would be the customers for Get Place? I understand that maybe you have certain types now, and in the future you might expand to others.
Yeah, so there is a huge difference between what we have now and what we want to do. So the vision of the company. So I will like share both. So the vision actually is to try to collect everything that helps us to understand how the offline world is operating, let's say like this. Yeah, so how people move in the streets, how the car is moving, how the taxi is moving, how the, I don't know, what revenue different offline stores are doing, how many people visit this hospital or use this bus or staying on this bus station. Yeah, all this information can help actually a lot of different use cases to be solved, not only let's say restaurants, but also all the retail and all the offline world, and actually maybe the governments when they decide where, I don't know, to start to build a new building, a new hospital, or a new bus station. Yeah, so this is like the
Yeah.
vision, and I think that this space is actually maybe a blue ocean, because there are some companies that doing some part of these things, but there is no like maybe one company that enables you to see all the data available like on the market and put it on a one place and make different kind of decisions. So the vision is like that, but currently, as I understand, when we started the new venture, we don't have a lot of resources. We just raised our first check. It was a pre-seed, and it was like not super huge in our case. So we do the MVP, and the MVP is super small and super focused on a small niche. So we are focusing only for restaurants, only in United Kingdom, and only the chains between like let's say 2-3 stores and like, I don't know, 20, 25. So only this small market,
Yep.
just to prove that there is a more product market fit for this niche. And after that, we will raise the next time and we'll go broader.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's is definitely the approach of start small, validate, and continuously improve, validating with the customers and making sure that you are fitting that potential business need that is out there, that people cannot make that decision. So maybe maybe it's just that I love technical questions, Santos, but what kind of size of municipality do you get data from? So I don't, because I understand that big cities probably can have that information about traffic flow, and maybe people moving, but I would doubt that like a 1,000 inhabitants, like a town, can have that kind of information available. So, what is the range of the cities or the municipalities that you can work with?
So if we're talking about the current situation, about the UK market where we're operating, we have the, let's say, uh, pretty accurate data for the first 100 biggest cities. So I think that it ends on the cities with inhabitants more than 50,000, something like that.
Okay, yeah,
So if we're talking about footfall, for example, the footfall and the vehicle traffic, if we're talking about some demographic things, we have it across the whole UK
yeah,
because we use the government census information. And so people like across all the country fill these forms and share these statistics. Also, for example, we use the police reports, and it's also like public, and they're also like available for the whole country, even for the cities, I don't know, with thousands of inhabitants. And actually we already like launched the heat map for the crime, so you can open like the map of the UK and see like through the whole country where is like more safety or less safety, and what kind of different crimes is committed in, for example,
yeah.
that certain area of London or in different one.
Okay, that's super interesting, because then you are handling a ton of data. I think that okay, walkers, or I don't even know what's the name. People just walk in the streets, not walkers like in the Walking Dead, but
Exactly. Yeah, it's like
and traffic, and you're mixing them with demographics, crime potentially, and other stuff, just to find out what could be the best potential places for you, for your restaurant. So how do you then aggregate this data, and how do you then like star I can you cannot you don't have to tell us your whole algorithm that you had to do that, but how do you aggregate it, and then how do you weight what is more important than for a new restaurant to find that location?
Yeah, it's like super good question, because like depending on these algorithms and the weight of each kind of data, your like decisions could be like more accurate or less accurate. So current solution, actually, yeah, what we have for now available on our website that you can buy, it's not actually something like an aggregation. Yeah, so we just show, let's say, practically the raw data. Yeah, so you can enter the address you're interested in, and we give you the report where we just say that it's that amount of people passing by this place, that amount of cars passing by this place, that amount of people living here, buildings here, the average, I don't know, income, level of crime, gender, age, something like that. But I think in 2 or maybe 3 weeks, we will launch the next version of the product where we already have a system that shows you the potentials on the market. And it worked like that. So we took let's say 3 or 4 different main parameters for choosing the location. The first one is the footfall. The second one is number of people living in the area. The third one is the level of their wealth. The fourth one is the price level for the real estate. There is a fifth one, but currently maybe it will not be included. So it's like the level of competition.
Okay, yeah,
And what we're doing, we just underlining the areas where is the best situation in terms of opening the next store. For example, we can find the corner case. I don't know, in some Birmingham city, for example, where is a high level of footfall, the high level of wealth, a lot of people living in around, and the low level of real estate for some reason. Yeah, maybe right
yep,
from the corner there is some low price for some reason, but right after the corner there is a lot of pedestrians and people living and a high level of wealth. And we just show you this place. We don't make something like a weight. Yeah, so that, for example, the footfall is much more important than the real estate price. We just show you the potential. Yeah,
Yep.
this is what we have on that stage. Later, we'll give some weights on that, but we will make it flexible. So each kind of business can put their own weights. For example, for your own business, it's much important to have, I don't know, the high level of wealth, but and low level of footfall. For example, you are some premium brand. Yeah, for
Yep.
you it doesn't matter the footfall. Yeah, for you the most important thing is the level of wealth around, and for example, a parking place. And that's how you mentioned this, and we help you to find the best solution for you.
That's very interesting because that I'm guessing that it opens then the possibilities to do recommendations AI based and start using the buzzword of AI and saying that like identifying that hey, if I am a company or I am a small company that wants to open a new, like let's say, fancy espresso cafe, where or what could be the best locations for me? Just throw me the best 10 locations in this area.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Then, from the customer point of view, there's a lot of value of not having to do that research on their own.
Let's say this is uh, actually a difficult question. Like it wasn't a question, but I think in general it's difficult because when you make some recommendations,
Yep.
you have a lot of liability for that. I don't mean that liability in terms of legal things, but the
Yep.
liability for decisions you offer, you propose to your clients. And
Yes.
as we feel a lot of responsibility for that because when people rent a place, they can invest, I don't know, 200, 300 thousands of euros or pounds in that. And if they lose that, it's like a huge disaster again in their life. So what we want to do now we want to share with you some ideas that we have, yeah, but not giving like exact recommendations. But
Yep.
little later, when we like raise the next round, and we'll have more ability to buy even more data that we have for now, because there is really a lot of different really expensive but valuable data. For example, you can buy the data from MasterCard or Visa company with a
Yep.
spending. Yeah, you can see how people spend their money on different streets. And this is super important for offline retail, but it's super
Hmm.
expensive. That's why we don't have it now. But when we'll
Yep.
have this and a bunch of different data, I think we will come closer and closer to recommendations.
Yep.
So something like that.
Yeah, and I understand your point of view that if the recommendations or if you start doing the recommendations, and I can understand that at this point, this definitely is not the moment, but it's later when you understand better the market. But there's like the value is there. What if the recommendation it was not the correct one? I mean, that's yeah. I understand that from your point of view, that can be a tricky situation, and obviously you want to get the best value to your customers.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So when thinking, you were talking about the competition and understanding the potential competition on the area. Do you get the data then from? Do you have some integration or something like that with Google or okay, TripAdvisor? I know that those tools they don't try to do what you're trying to do, at least not to my understanding. Uh, but to a certain degree, they have a ton of data on like especially in the restaurants world. They have like the locations, how much people are how to say rating those locations, which ones are successful ones, understanding what is like a fancy restaurant or more like a basic one. Do you have any plans or do you work with them already?
So currently we have a couple of integrations with the APIs. So as example, for example, we use the Google API to make the competitors report. So in this report, we show you put the address and we name all the, for example, list of top 30 competitors in your sphere around, the number of their ratings, reviews, and the average price level in a, how to say, understanding of the people who visit in these places. Yeah. So this is currently what we have in terms of the APIs, but now we are looking for different solutions that can give us much more data. For example, we're having some negotiations with a TripAdvisor, with a Foursquare, with the companies such, for example, as Rightmove and Zoopla in the United Kingdom, which are the real estate platforms. So we're trying actually to talk with everybody who have some data that could help us. But I have also to mention that uh, some APIs are working for the request. So you pay on each request and it's like sustainable in terms of the startup, and we could
Yep.
work with such APIs. But some APIs, they require, for example, some initial access. For example, some of the companies I mentioned, they require, I don't know, 5,000 of pounds each month just for having this API. And currently we're not on that stage to pay that, but in future we will definitely come to that, and we will try to find all the possible data that we have on the market to work with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it gets quite expensive, I guess.
Yeah.
So what are your plans then when you think about them in the future? Now you are in the UK. Are you planning then? I'm guessing with next some other rounds, then to move to other countries. It sounds like maybe you can walk us a little bit the process of what it entitles to move to another country, because I guess that you had to purchase all that data again
Mhm.
for the new location.
Yeah, so from the technical side, it's pretty easy to enter the new market. So, for example, let's imagine we have €1 million in our bank account for now. We can easily, like, in 2 3 weeks, enter like the whole European country. So no problem
Okay.
because all the data is available on the market.
Yep.
For some parts of the data, we have to spend some time to find it, but we already done this research because we have how to say, a lot of traffic on our website from not only UK. We have a lot of traffic, for example, from Netherlands, from Germany, from Spain, and we have from all those countries we have requests from our clients. And currently we're estimating which country would be the best one to enter if we have like a limited amount of budget to understand. So yeah, from technical side is easy, and but from the side of the data, yeah, it just costs the money. Yeah. Also, I have to mention there are some different rules in terms of working the data, where you have to store it, how you have to work, I don't know, with different laws about privacy and stuff like that. But it's also like a question of uh, that it could take like a couple of maybe weeks to elaborate on that. Not like a super difficult thing.
Yep. Yeah. And so when you think about these regulations, one of the things that comes to my mind is like if you think about different businesses. For example, I live in Finland, and I think Spain has the same regulation that you cannot just establish a pharmacy whatever you want. For example, I don't know if it affects other type of businesses, but I don't know how it's handled, but it's kind of you had to go through some process. Are you planning also to support that kind of business, or is it way too complex to think about?
Actually, if we're talking about any kind of offline business, there are some kind of these regulations. For example, we're now here in Amsterdam, where is our like headquarters, let's say. And here you cannot open, for example, the restaurant in any place you want because there is, for example, alcohol license, the restaurant license, and there is some limited. For example, in city center, there is limited amount of these licenses. And if you want to open a new store, you have to find the old store that is willing to close, and you have to buy the rental contract, let's
Okay.
say. And the pharmacy that you mentioned is like totally the same. Yeah, this is like a nice business to have, but there is a limited amount of permits the city give for that. And we, of course, we will have all kind of offline businesses. In all of them, there is some regulations, but our currently our proposition is not to say that you have to run just this store, yeah, or this address. We share with you the insight that this area would be perfect to open. Then you come to this area and you can see that there is a bunch of, for example, pharmacies there and a bunch of open for rent premises, yeah, and you make your own decisions.
Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that yeah, at some point you can work more that those more complex situations. But it sounds to me like it that would be trying to support it and automate it as much as possible. Probably that would be a very very steep work to get done actually. Uh, so maybe thinking a bit your startup. So from what you said, you started last year with this one, and you already got some funding for it. Uh, but that really is not a lot of time. So I mean, from what I see in your website, you definitely have done already a lot. It's like how did you actually get to pitch it? Did you already had a product? Did you get had already some kind of traction, or did you just pitch based on an idea and a nice slide set, or how did you do it?
Yeah, so I will try to make it short, not to like go through the whole details, but you can like answer some questions if you will be
Yeah.
interested in some part. So as I mentioned, when I moved to like out of my native country, I started to think what I need to do next, and I come to conclusion that I don't want to become a manager one more time, be a manager anymore, and I want to start to be an entrepreneur. And I was hearing like a bunch of different ideas, and I started to pitch them to different VCs whom I know, to different people who might invest. And through these dialogues, I understand that this idea was a good place, can attract some money, and we can do a really nice product for that. And right at that time, one of the guys whom I know, his name is Mike, he recommended me the Antler program in Netherlands, and I filled the form, and they invited me like maybe on the next day, or in a couple of next days, they invited me to the program after all the interviews, and I know that they could invest in my project potentially. So after that, I was starting to look for a co-founder, and on Y Combinator co-founding matching platform, I found my co-founder Sergey, who's actually a brilliant engineer, super hardworking, and this is the reason why we actually done so much in this short period of time, as you mentioned. And all this I mentioned, it was like before the October. So till the October of 2022, we have nothing. And in October of 2022, the program started in Adler, and we have 2 months to like come through the whole program and to win it and get the money. And during these 2 months, what we have done, we collected some part of the free data that is available. We negotiated with a couple of suppliers to give us the data for free, and it was like really cool because uh, the data cost a lot. For example, one of suppliers who shared us the data for several months in terms of the footfall and vehicle traffic, it costed about maybe 10,000 of pounds, and they give us
Mm.
just for free. Yeah, because they believed in the idea, they believed in our vision and in the team. And we make something like a demo. It was not really a product that was working, but it was a visualization of the product. Plus, we get the data, and this make the VC, the Antler, invest in us. So on that stage, it was a little bit more than a pitch, but not a product yet.
Yeah.
So in the December, we got the decision, and in January 2023, we incorporated the company and got the money. And I think that in December, the really product development starts. So what we have now, it was done, I think, like in a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3
Nice.
months of the work.
Cool. So how do you then distribute the different tasks between you and your co-founder? I'm guessing that at this point there's just the two of you. So sounds like Sergey is more on the technical side.
Well, now actually, I would love to say 3 people full time.
Okay.
So yeah, we
Cool.
have me and Sergey, who are the founders originally, but then on super early stage, I think when we have already something like a product, but not yet. A super talented product manager joined us, whose name is Yuri. He is based in Tel Aviv. Actually, Sergey is based in London. So we're like 3 people, fully remote, so Amsterdam, Tel Aviv, and London. And so how we spread it like in the team. So Sergey is all the technical things. He's not like involving super much, for example, in business development, something like that. He's only like coding, I don't know, maybe 15 hours every day, like 7 days a week, super hardworking. And I responsible for everything connected with the fundraising, business development. Uh, I think this is the main thing. And marketing, I think marketing, what we're doing now is also like, let's say, marketing. And
Yep.
Yuri is the connection between the business part and the technical part. So Yuri is speaking with the clients together with me. He's making some studies. He's making the analytics of the current product users on the website and gaining some experience from the competitors and making all these ideas become the product that came to life and that users are using and giving the feedback. So this is our current roles. We also have several
Nice.
people on freelance. We have some good designers and front enders, but that mostly like come just for some tasks.
But that's already quite a good setup for being so early in the stages of the startup. You already have quite many corners already covered to quite a good degree. Sounds like.
I think that the main thing that is not covered yet, it's a sales.
Yep.
I have some experience in sales. Actually, my first, like, I don't know, 5 years of a career was a sales, and I worked for Google actually as a salesperson for the Google ads, and I worked in Mars Incorporated also like a salesperson. But currently, I feel that I could sell it and I could do it like every day, and I could succeed in that. But when I'm doing like all the daily sales, it's not enough like time to cover some other things because fundraising, for example, is also like a full-time job. So
Yep.
our strategy in this area is to get first traction, maybe first 10,000 euros MRR by myself to understand more how it works, how I can sell it, what is working and what is not, what channels are working in terms of the marketing. And then after the next round, I think that it was like it will be the first vacancies. So the sales,
Yep.
and maybe the marketing, but I'm not sure. I think that sales is the fourth corner of this square that we don't have for now.
Yeah, yeah. So now you're relying more on yourself, trying to drive those sales, and then hopefully through the side gates get some direct sales. Uh, that comes in the. I guess that you seem to have like an online portal there to start at least the purchase process.
Yeah. So this is true. So, but actually, we just now have a practically zero budget for marketing. So
Yep.
everything what we are doing is just like the cold outreach in a different
Yep.
channels and plus SMM, social media. Yeah. So I think that just in the beginning is the best setup because when you start to spend money on marketing, don't having like a product market fit or being sure that what you are doing in terms of marketing is working, you can waste a lot of time and money and burn your like month of being alive, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a big risk if you start marketing in the wrong direction without having a clear product market fit, and understanding if you are serving already a need from the customers out there. So continuing then with this topic, what is the challenges that you see growing a product? And you briefly touched in the beginning when you talk about being an existing in a corporation in a way. Okay, maybe the size was not the size of a corporation, but an established company that has recurring revenue and an established product that is probably profitable. To start your own company, what do you see are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, so let's say how to say there is a lot of really difficult things that need to be done, really a lot, but some of them is just the difficult things and some of them are real challenges, yeah. And I feel that the biggest challenge for us for now is getting uh, more honest feedback. So we already have about 15 paying customers, so it's not so small for the company that just started, like, let's say our MVP released 6 weeks ago. During these 6 weeks, we got this like first 500 euros gained and 15 customers, but not all of them share with us the honest feedback. Some of them just not answering, and it's also like a bad signal. But we need to understand what we're doing wrong. We're happy to give the money back. We're happy to cover all our mistakes, but we need a lot of say honest feedback. When people will say that this is shit, this doesn't work, I don't need this, this is useful, and why this is useful, and what will be the useful for you, yeah, why you think this is not accurate data, and what will be the signals for you to believe that this is accurate, yeah. This is
Yeah.
just examples. So this is the biggest challenge because we're developing now the product on our feelings and on the customer development. But it appeared that what we are gaining in the customer development could not be leading to the sales. Yeah, because people say their opinion, but they don't buy it. Yeah, so
Mhm.
this should be a mix of your feelings and what customers are saying, how they behave. I think this is the biggest challenge for us because all other things they could be covered in a different ways, and we're faced with them and like every day. But this is not working super easy with a limited of budget, yeah. Because when you have money for marketing, you can spend some money, get more traction, get more feedback, and then to understand how to change the product.
Yeah. And that's a challenging one because if I think about myself, I'm whenever you get a survey from a company asking about their product, I would be very optimistic if I answer 10% of them. So most of us probably are like passive users of products, and not necessarily talking too much. And I guess that having all the monitoring and all the data coming in from the products is something that at this stage probably you don't have all that data of how people are necessarily using the product to understand the level of engagement also of the users there.
Yeah, I think this is true.
Yeah, that can imagine that is a challenging one. But maybe if you think about where do you see them, then the future of getplace.io, how do you see it being like in, I don't know, 10 years or some longer period of time? Where do you see it placed?
It's a good question. So I think that how I try to feel with that, I try to be super open and not to be super attractive to some vision or some product, because when you're super attractive to some idea, you don't like see some other ways to change it. Yeah, you don't see the customer feedback and you don't feel it because you have some big vision. Yeah, but it's also like difficult to work without vision. Yeah, so as I mentioned, in general, the vision in like 10 years, for example, to become the company that cover a lot of different questions connected with how people behave offline. Yeah, this is a general vision. It's like super general. I feel that when you have some question about how, I don't know, your competitors behave in online, you have a lot of ways to do that. You have Semrush. I don't know, for example, yeah, you have similar web, you have, I don't know, Upfollow for mobile applications, something like that, or App Annie, yeah, a lot of different companies. But if we're talking about offline, you couldn't mention even one. So ask any kind of your friends, I don't know, or people in your network with offline, what they use to understand what is going on with their customers offline, what is going on with their competitors offline. They couldn't mention even one company. So this is the niche, and we want to drive our company to that niche. But how it will be driven to that area and what exactly the products would be, only the time will show us. So we have in our backlog, for example, now 30 different ideas of the next step in the terms of the product. And every time we speak with the people who make some customer development, some validation calls, trying to understand which one of that idea suits market better, on which one of these ideas there is a bigger niche. And we will see, like, I think maybe in 6 months or 9 months, we will see much more in terms of how our product will look like and what niches we will cover the first.
So now that you have shared with us a little bit what like the challenging parts of getting your product done, and also many parts of your experience of being a CEO, but also being in many different C-level positions. What would be a recommendation that you will have for somebody that it's either starting their own startup or thinking about starting? What would be like one or two things that you think that could help them make that decision, and if it's a wise decision?
You know, last maybe couple of months, I force myself not to give like any recommendations, because I understand that, how to say, you sometimes you think that you know something, but then appear you don't know anything, but people can rely on your recommendation. So I can just share like my own feelings, what helped me, and how I feel about some things. So the first insight is that becoming an interpreter for me, it is not so scary as I thought about it. I mentioned that it's much more difficult than I thought it to be, but it's not so scary. And actually, I feel a lot of freedom, a lot of, how to say, warm inside me that I'm doing something right for me. Maybe this idea will not work. We will pivot it. We will, I don't know, get more funding. It will be challenging, but we'll succeed in that. But I feel that I'm doing something good for me. Yeah, something good that makes me happier. And when I'm happy, when I'm doing the things I like, I think that there is no chance not to succeed in that. This is just a question of time. Yeah, but it's also difficult to recommend something like that, because in my position, I had some money on my bank account. I had some shares of the startup that I worked before, because I worked for like many years, and I got some stocks. So uh, yeah, I think that in my position, it was the right decision. But maybe in some other situations, it could be different. Yeah, and also one of the things I noticed from myself now, and I don't think that all the people understand like in the right way, that uh, it is super important to spread your idea as much as possible and be super open, not to be afraid that somebody will steal your idea, that somebody, I don't know, will punish you for some, I don't know, things you're doing wrong. Yeah. Because when you're open, there is a lot of chances you can attract somebody. You can attract some people in your team. You can involve some people that make believe in what you are doing. And this is the only way you can do something. So if there was not, for example, Sergey and Yuri in my team now, I would have nothing. Yeah, because I'm not an engineer. I'm not a product manager. So the team is everything. So I think this is like my two biggest insights.
That I like them a lot because I like what you say in the beginning of maybe not wanting to get too much of a recommendation, because I agree that it's a journey and it's a different journey for everybody. So there's
Yeah.
not like a perfect recipe of you do this and it's gonna be
No, no, no.
perfect. No, that you just have to go through your journey and stumble into many stones, and then you will learn from them, and it's gonna be different from every person. And when it comes to the idea, I think that it's very true that it feels like in the beginning when you have an idea, it's like, oh, this is a great idea. If somebody steals it, it's like I had to. It's like, but you don't want or but the reality is that like ideas without execution are just ideas. So if you cannot get it done, yeah, there's very little point to that idea, and there's very little that you are going to do with it.
Agree, agree.
Great. Hey, so we are running out of time, but maybe quickly for people to see and understand more about who you are, more about getplace.io. Can you share a little bit with us where they can find you?
I think the best way to reach me out is LinkedIn. So I use it like every day, and maybe if you will give a link, maybe in the description, YouTube, something like that, it will be useful. Also, you can visit our website. I think it could be interesting for you to see the product what we're doing, and if you have some questions to me, how we decided to do this or that, or maybe you like know some potential clients, I will much appreciate for any connections. We will not try to sell something to the people. We just want to get honest feedback, as I mentioned. So this is the most important thing for us now.
Great. So what I will do is that I'll put the links in the description below, so everybody can find you and go check it out and contact you if they are interested in hearing more about your startup.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So thank you very much, Denis. I think that this has been great interview and a great chat with you, understanding better what you're doing. I love that we got a little bit technical, maybe on